convicted heroin dealer is now openly campaigning in support of the Labour Party.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Very good evening. It is Sunday the 13th of February and my apologies. I am having internet connection problems, so that's why we've been up and down, I'm afraid, and I suddenly developed the sniffles as well, so that's me not off to the best of start. It was only a matter of time. It was only a matter of time, and those of us who understand the dynamics of Oldham knew that this was inevitable. Inevitable. That the convicted heroin dealer, getaway driver of Dale Cregan, Irish Immy, has entered the campaigning space clearly on behalf of the Labour Party in Chadderton South. It beggars belief that this convicted mobster has anything to do with politics in the town, let alone enter the space essentially campaigning for Arooj Shah. He has set up something called our Chatterton Group. Our Chatterton Group. And this is his own post as admin of our Chatterton Group. I've set this page up as I have come across a page called News for South Chatterton. News for South Chatterton is what Robert Barnes runs and has been running it for a number of years. That is regularly misinforming the residents of Chatterton. Wannabe councillor Robert Barnes is often trying to gain people's trust by lying through his back teeth. Remember, this is a convicted heroin dealer. Below is an example of how he reacts when our local, sincere elected members are sharing facts with residents that affect both mine and your children and family members. Below you will read the facts from Cllr Arooj Shah's leaflet, and then you will see Tory Robert Barnes' response on social media. His aggressive post was made simply because the party him and the likes of Jimmy Savile before him support were being exposed. So here is Irish Immy, convicted mobster, heroin dealer, going for the decent Robert Barnes, created his own group called Our Chatterton Group, campaigning now, officially campaigning for Jim McMahon and Arooj Shah. Because that's what this is. They've not distanced themselves from him. They've never distanced themselves from him. In fact, Arooj Shah has defended her relationship with him, and Jim McMahon is hiding behind casework or disguise his support of Irish Immy's parole hearing, which led to him also going back to prison. The shadow cabinet minister is directly involved with a convicted heroin dealer, getaway driver of an Oldham cop killer. Arooj Shah is more than directly involved, and this man now this man is in a space where he is essentially campaigning on behalf of the Labour Party and attacking Robert Barnes and starting to call him names. But this isn't the first time he's called him names. It's been going on for some time. This page will share the factual truth. Who's taught him his English? God knows. For far too long, communities and people have been manipulated by those with their own ulterior motives and agendas. What's the agenda of a convicted heroin dealer? We deserve better. I agree with you. We deserve better. And we won't be taken for granted or allow the misrepresentation of the truth. Join us if you want to be part of a union who strives to support, protect and improve our communities. From a man who helped flood heroin onto the streets of our town. Hi everyone. Chadderton is our community and we have so much potential. We need to bring back community spirit and look out for and support each other and help improve our area. He doesn't live in Chadderton South. He has nothing to do with Chadderton South. And Arooj Shah doesn't live in Chadderton South either. If you're interested in being part of our own Chadderton family, then please join, like and share this page. You know, of all the things that have happened over the last 3 years, this is up there with the worst of it. A convicted heroin dealer is now openly campaigning on behalf of the Labour leader of Oldham Council and has taken his style of whatever this is. That's exactly what this is, Tony. It's crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. There's a restraining order against him, mate. But this is a guy whose last conviction, or just over a year ago, hangs off the arm of the leader of the council. And is now out campaigning, sharing the factual truth only. For far too long, communities and people have been manipulated by those with their own ulterior motives and agendas. It does, doesn't it? It does, doesn't it? Who runs the town? He is, isn't he, Tony? He's the proxy council leader. He's the proxy council leader. We can take stock of what has happened this week. A convicted heroin dealer is now openly campaigning in support of the Labour Party in Chadderton South, an area he doesn't even live in. If he lived in the ward, then as unpalatable as I would feel, it would make sense that he was out campaigning. But he doesn't live in the ward, and not only is he out campaigning, his style of campaigning is to attack Robert Barnes. How do you feel, John Sheldon? How do you feel now, knowing that these people are attacking your candidates and you were thumbs up, having your picture took with the leader of Oldham Council, calling all of us, attacking all of us? How do you feel? So I knew this was going to happen. I spoke with my friends who are far more strategic than I am, some who still work in government, by the way, and they said to me, Raja, this is how it will play out. In the lead up to the election, they'll arrest you and try and censor you. And then either the case will collapse at some point later on, or they'll try and stitch you up and you've got to appeal and you'll get through that. So don't worry about that. But that's what the system will do. That's what McMahon, Arooj Shah, Oldham Council, all of them will do with a bent police force in the pocket of a Labour Party mayor. And in years to come, what is taking place will be analysed, reflected upon, and no doubt lessons learnt. So the harassment and intimidation of ordinary everyday campaigners can never happen again. Or so they'll claim, until the next time. And then what you'll also find out, Raja, is that those who have most to lose will be forced to come to the battlefield. So instead of pulling the strings from the shadows, the puppet masters will have to enter the field. So you tell me what his skin is in the game. I'm telling you what his skin is in the game. If you pause and step back, you'd be shocked by it. Jim McMahon, the MP for Oldham West and Royton, is campaign manager for Arooj Shah, because that's what he is. He's standing outside school gates when he shouldn't be. He is, the MP is essentially campaign manager in a council re-election. There are lines and degrees of separation, and this should not happen. The MP is behaving as though he's campaign manager. And those of you who are able to look at this and analyse what is taking place, can you also see that whilst McMahon and Irish Imi are front and centre of this campaign, many of the veteran Labour Party councillors in this town, they've not took 2 steps back. They've retreated and want nothing to do with it. Where is Dr. Chauhan? I don't see Dr. Chauhan campaigning in Chadderton South, do you? Where's Amanda Chadderton? Where are the Bashworths? Where are they all? Nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen. A convicted heroin dealer is campaigning for the Labour Party. Where are we going to see him next? Is he going to be outside school gates with McMahon and Arooj Shah handing out sweets? What's he going to be doing next? The Conservatives have written to the Chief Executive of Oldham Council, horrified that Arooj Shah and Jim McMahon are blocking the school gates and handing out and campaigning. Now, if you're a parent and you want nothing to do with them, and there are other children there, and that interaction triggers a response, it's a safeguarding risk for children. Jim McMahon and Arooj Shah campaigning outside school gates is a safeguarding risk. But they're struggling here, aren't they? Because McMahon actually doesn't know how to campaign if he's not in the Asian areas, nibbling samosas with his mates. And clearly Arooj Shah doesn't know how to campaign because she won't go out on her own campaigning. She's got to have someone fronting her all the time. There's Robert Barnes, front and centre, out all the time, on his own, or with others, but he's there front and centre. And because he's out there on his own and challenging the propaganda from Oldham Labour Party, a convicted heroin dealer is now trying to intimidate him on behalf of the leader of the council. Exactly, mate. What would happen if the far right were campaigning outside of a school? The BNP are a legitimate party. I might not like them, but they're a legitimate party. If they decide to hand out leaflets outside of school, how would you react? How would the council react? And there are schools across Oldham, by the way. Why aren't the other Labour Party politicians in the other wards standing outside school gates? The reason, or one of the reasons they're struggling is, in Chadderton South, same as in Failsworth, there are no Asian cartels. The Labour Party can be defeated fair and square through the normal democratic process. There is no block Muslim postal vote. There are no secretly funded mosques. And there are no smoky rooms where McMahon can go and nibble his samosas with Asian businessmen. And it's barely February. There's more to come. There's more to come. Because the police are bent. The police have a skin in this game, and it's to protect Jim McMahon and Arooj Shah and the corrupt council that they are in bed with. I'm sorry. I want the police to be honest and fair and rise above party politics and do their jobs. But the same as at a national level, you're seeing at a local level, but at a local level it's worse because no one is holding them up to scrutiny. The police at a local level are bent. They have been protecting bent politicians in this town for years. They have been exposed in their own failings in covering up the grooming gangs going back decades. Hand in fist each time with a bent Labour Party council. The police in Oldham, Greater Manchester Police, are bent. And do you know the leaflet she's handing out? I shared it with you last week. The leaflet she's handing out, and this is outrageous. This is equally outrageous because it manipulates citizens who perhaps aren't educated in what's going on. She's handing out leaflets about national government policy. And she's got some facts and figures that are wrong, by the way, of how much schools have lost out in funding, apparently. So she's trying to, hand out propaganda. The Tories have cut, it's like the old Maggie Thatcher stole your milk money sort of nonsense. She's handing out leaflets to do with national government issues whilst campaigning for a local election where she or any other councillor, as a locally elected councillor, have no power to influence. Councillors should be elected on local issues, which is what is going on in our town. What difference can they make in our town? But she can't do that, can she? He can't do that, can he? What's McMahon doing there? Never mind what he can and can't do. But they can't do that because the Labour Party run administration has made a mess of this town. Okay. How about I rock up outside Whitegate End next week handing out leaflets with a photograph of Irish Imi, Jim McMahon and Arooj Shah and everything I've shared and start handing them outside Whitegate End or Yew or the others. I guarantee you the head teachers will be straight on the phone to the police, Father Samosa. And I guarantee you the police will come and try and arrest me if I was to do that. There is a head teachers committee in Oldham. All the head teachers come together and meet. There's a head teachers council committee. The head teachers should be taking the initiative and writing to the chief executive and copying in the leaders of all of the political parties objecting to the campaigning outside school gates. Convicted mobsters campaigning in Chadderton South, and McMahon and the leader of the council loitering outside the school gates, handing out Labour Party propaganda. And the election's not even warmed up yet. I'd expect to get slapped, Gary, by my mother. That's what would happen. It's outrageous. And that's intentional. That's intentional. That is intentional. And how many of you are left here? Or how many of your friends are left here? Still with the same old nonsense. But my father voted Labour. My grandfather voted Labour. He'll turn in his grave. If you're still of that mindset, you deserve everything you get. The only way of defeating the Labour Party in Oldham across the board is by voting for either Conservative candidates or Liberal Democrat candidates. And it doesn't matter if you don't like the Conservatives, it doesn't matter if you vote the Lib Dems. In certain wards, the Conservatives have no chance, and the Lib Dem is the only way. Lib Dem vote is the only way you'll keep Labour out. And in other wards, the only way you'll defeat Labour is by voting for the Conservatives. Oldham Heart, proud of Oldham. In most cases, absolutely forget it. It's a wasted vote. You might as well write a personal message to Jim McMahon or Arooj Shah on your voting card. They came, didn't they, before Christmas? They came to fight racism. They came to fight the far right. They came to fight the racists in Oldham. They came to fight you and me. Doesn't matter, we've never said anything racist. We aren't racist, and we sure as hell would stand on the battle lines to fight racists. They decided we were the racists, and the only reason they had was because we working class folk wouldn't do as we were told and blindly, obediently support the Labour Party. And as soon as we started asking questions, we became the enemy. And it's easier to demonize us by branding us racists. It's cheap, it's dirty, and above all, it's dangerous.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.